Hi, and this is Edip. Um, 31st of January 2026. Peace from Cincinnati, Ohio. Just show you outside that there's a lot of snow. Reverse. Even there's ice. Well, today is since 1989, 31st of January. Um, wow, 36 or 37 years ago. My close friend and mentor, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, was assassinated while he entered Masjid Tucson for morning prayer. Um, about a year before, there was death fatwa against him and Salman Rushdie. Somehow they included his name to their fatwa about Salman Rushdie, so-called Sunni scholars, alims. In fact, they are zalims from 38 countries. They gathered in Medina and for the affair of Salman Rushdie, it was number one issue in 1988 or 89. And then they issued a fatwa that Salman Rushdie, Rashad and Rushdie, this was their fatwa, Rashad and Rushdie both are apostates, murtads, code word to be killed. And in less than a year, they assassinated him, a Sunni terrorist group. Anyway, it shows throughout history, majority of people, they hate the truth. They prefer idol worship to monotheism. Now, I would like to talk about current global politics and events, major events we are witnessing. The AI that will change um, our future, and nothing will be the same. And the truth will be the casualty. AI will distort truth. You will have difficulty to distinguish truth from falsehood. There are many other issues. Even family life is at risk, the family institution. And they are also co-opting the governments, like United States government, for surveillance and whatever they want to do with humanity. Now, now we witnessed in last several years. Let me start from the United States. I could never imagine when I came to United States the first decades that I would see that my First Amendment rights or Fourth Amendment rights would be so violated, blatantly violated by the government. I knew that in 1997 and 98, I wrote some legal journal articles. One of them, which was not published, but I published it. Two of them were published by universities, but this one I just self-published. It was about campaign finance reform. That time I was like Pollyanna, first in this country, escaped from persecution, 4 years in prison in Turkish jails, 1 year being almost daily torture, physical torture, mental torture. and later, uh, several years later, discovering in 1986 that the religion I was promoting, I was the leader of a youth organization that had 1 million members, the biggest youth organization, Islamist youth organization called Akıncılar. Uh, the Turkish dictator, Tayyip Erdogan, was my friend. He was below me in the hierarchy. We were together in high school. He was a few years ahead of me. He's several years older than me. And later in the party, but he was below me. In fact, only once he got arrested that time because he joined one of the events I was leading, a rally. Um, yeah. And then I discovered the religion I was promoting. I was best-selling author that time. Best-selling, when I say best-selling, number one. Uh, but my communication with Dr. Rashad Khalifa, that time I hadn't met him. I'm talking about 1986. That time, ironically, I was in the city in Turkey that's known the city of 19, Samsun. In 19 May 1919, Atatürk, together 19 military leaders, they started basically their war of independence in Samsun. That is still celebrated as a holiday in Turkey, 19 May. And I started communicating with Dr. Rashad Khalifa. I learned about 19 in 1980 about World Youth Conference, Muslim Youth Conference in that time in Çanakkale. From 42 countries, youth attended, youth leaders. That time there were several older guests. It was about 2 weeks by the sea, Marmara Sea. Um, Ahmed Deedat was there. What was the other guy's name? Very famous Egyptian. God, I forgot his name. I hope I remember. It's just on my tongue. Um, Yusuf al-Qardawi. Yes, Qardawi was there. I don't like him. He was a cranky old man, but Ahmed Deedat was a very fun, humorous, very smart, eloquent, good speaker. I heard 19 from him first time. I was very interested for several reasons, I will tell you. And also I had, by chance, coincidence, I had my own organization within the big organization for local youth that I specially trained. And I had a room for them around the Fatih Mosque. There are old Ottoman time universities, madrasas, and there are each of them, I think, each segment have 19 domes. I didn't know that too. In that one, I established a group of 50, 60 high school students. I was training them and also guiding them towards a particular college in a particular university so that we will control that university. And then I called it the group 19, FT 19, Fatih 19, means victory 19. Without knowing, 2 years before I met Ahmed Deedat, first time hearing that 19 is a miracle in the Quran. And first time I learned that Basmala has 19 letters, which is obvious fact, but never focus on the number of letters of Basmala or whether there is any reason why the number of chapters is 114. Anyway, years later, first time I decided to communicate with Dr. Rashad Khalifa. In 1986, I was expecting someone like my father, Edip Yuksel, well-known, very prominent, popular religious scholar. He was above all the religious factions. They had different agendas. They were rival to each other, but they all respect my father. If you check my name, you will find my father's name too. I was expecting a Sunni like my father, but he surprised me. Oh my gosh, this guy, perhaps he doesn't believe in hadith. Just got curious because his responses did not fit my expectation. And then when I learned that he really doesn't believe in hadith, he said, "Did I send you Quran, Hadith, and Islam, the book?" I said, "No. I was communicating with old snail mail. That time there was no internet, and even I couldn't use phone. It was expensive, and also I didn't know that much English. My conversation skills were not that good. And then when I received the book, it has the worst cover. My God, the worst cover in the world. It cannot be worse than that, the ugliest. Um, just it is brown with white dots on it and not good print. The font is the ugliest font, but the book is the most, I think, the best book written, uh, basically comparing the verses of the Quran with the teaching of the Sunni and Shiite sects, religions, in fact, religions. They have different books, holy books, besides the Quran. It makes them religion, and they have also their own sects. And big shock, it was 1st of July, 1986. I call it the night of power for me. The Quran revealed to me that time. I thought I was reading the Quran, I was promoting the Quran, I was trying to establish a government based on the Quran and Hadith and Sunnah, but I had no clue about the Quran. I realized very different paradigm change. That night, my paradigm changed. Anyway, I came to United States. Finally, when I rejected my parents' religion, the books I was writing to promote Sunni theocracy, and in my book titled İlginç Sorular 2, An Interesting Question, Volume 2. And that book sealed the deal I expected. In the back of the book I wrote, I said, I know that I have two options: either continue promoting the religion I inherited from my parents and continue to become a best-selling author and continue become popular youth leader and maybe the future political leader of this Muslim segment of the population, which they are now in power more than 24 years. They will never give away. They don't believe in democracy, is big lie. They believe in sultanate. In, anyway, but yeah, it was a big surprise. He was a heretic. But that night, after reading the book, it's just a few hours, just verses of the Quran, underline some word, connect that word to another verse. Oh my gosh, it seems kind of I was misunderstanding the meaning of the word. I didn't check with the other verse. Basically, two different meanings I would give, or the real meaning of this word or verse is different when you look at the Quran as a whole. I decided to dedicate my system, my faith to God alone. Therefore, since then, I call myself rational monotheist, Hanif, or Wahid, what they are called. It is rational monotheism, it's not blind following, just believing for the sake of believing something. No, this must be based on evidence, extraordinary evidence. Therefore, the best description of it is rational monotheism. And my religion, which I hated the word religion, in fact, I used to use it, but I found out, well, religion is really has nothing to do with God's message. Religion is a bunch of stupid, meaningless rituals made up by clergymen. But in deen, in fact, means responsibility, responsibility towards each other, towards society, and society's responsibility towards individual. Deen, Yawm al-Din, the day of responsibility. Deen means you owe duty, a duty, you owe debt to something. And therefore, Muhammad changed the name of Yasrib. In the Quran, we see Yasrib, and then the name is turned into Medina. Medina comes from the word Deen, Deyene, means responsibility, civilization. Medina means civilization. In fact, Medaniya means another word for civilization. Yeah, and Deen, civilization, is Islam. It's not a proper name, which is unfortunately distorted and abused by mushriks, by Sunni and Shiite mushriks. Islam means peacemaking. Salam means peace. Islam means peacemaking. To you make peace with God, you make peace with people around you. We have to be in peace, peace with nature. Therefore, the only system that is acceptable by God is peacemaking, not fighting with each other, not killing each other, and which is generally done through two satanic ideology, racism, and religionism or sectarianism. And therefore, my system is the system I believe, the civilization I believe must be ultimately always aiming for peace. In order to peace happen, there must be freedom, there must be justice, there must be solidarity, social economic justice, support system, and ultimately there must be peace. And of course, truth can survive, and there is freedom of expression, ultimate freedom of expression. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wants to believe, whoever wants to reject, let them do it. Anyway, therefore, when I first came to the United States, I was like Pollyanna, I'm going back. And freedom here in this country. You can criticize the government and you can criticize the president if you want. You can use even obscenities. Nothing happens, which is in the First Amendment. That time I would never imagine that First Amendment one day will be at risk in this country. Fourth Amendment, Second Amendment, I don't like it, but it seems kind of there's a wisdom in that. The wisdom is that the government can become killers and murderers on the streets so that you can defend yourself against government. And I pretty appreciate the drafters of the Constitution, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, many of them, Franklin, and I read the 95 papers, Federalist Papers, incredible minds, averse of government, suspicious of power. They have very, basically, United States is lucky because the founders were mostly philosophers, and many of them were monotheists. They were not even Trinitarian. They knew that the government is needed, but it is also dangerous. A powerful, strong government can, instead of being servant of the people, they become menace for the people. Therefore, they divided government into three branches, like a snake with three heads, balance each other. When one goes too much, the other two will stop. Basically, inefficient government. They know that it will become inefficient. The most efficient government is is authoritarian government. When one person makes the decision in one night, the following day, the whole country follows. Yeah, it is very efficient, but it's without Doubt it will end up in tyranny, oppression, corruption. And therefore, in order to make the government or fighting with each other, balancing each other, but an inefficient, but at least a government that citizen could be saved from. And they end up with the amendments, Bill of Rights. Of course, the American Constitution, very interesting. In my law school, I don't know whether it's second year or third year, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court gave basically a class in a summer class, landmark Supreme Court cases. He was Justice Rehnquist. That time, totally he was in the Supreme Court. He was Supreme Court Justice for 33 years, 19 years being the Chief Justice. And I was the only student in my class of 140 students, that occasionally engaged in debates with him. He was trying to avoid debate. He wanted to be kind of above students, but I didn't really mind. Here it is, a guy in Turkey who's a prisoner and later dangerous foot soldier, mandatory military for 18 months, and later an apostate, excommunicated, and got death fatwas, basically vertically oppressed by the government, horizontally oppressed by people and communities, organizations, and end up here debating with the top, one of the three top powerful guy in the United States. That's his irony. And that time, I really would not imagine that there will be a day in 2025, 26, what we see right now in the United States. That time, as I said, in 1998, when I studied the campaign finance, I found out, my God, there is no democracy in this country. It's plutocracy. Corporations, rich people, they donate. They are very kind of helpful. They want to just give away their money for no expectation. And then donate to politicians. And somehow politicians, without quid pro quo, they end up doing whatever they want. No, there is no bribery. It's not called bribery, no connection. And they want us to believe that lie. And later, United Citizen case, which basically it was the last nail in the coffin, destroyed the whole little semblance of democracy. Therefore, unlimited amount of money can be given. Basically, the rich class, the filthy rich class and corporations right now are basically purchasing politicians. You can hear only their candidates. The others cannot be heard in the media, in the noise. The media is controlled by them too. And basically, they pick their stooge, their puppets, and their puppets go there, serve them. And there are a few gimmicky laws they pass to fool people. And the two political parties, they serve the same masters, 100%. They have some fake fights over some issues they don't really care. But their constituency care, they're about sex, about religion, very kind of emotional issues like abortion or like LGBTQ, and each they know they will have their constituency. They will go crazy about this issue. They fight each other over those issues. For 30, 40 years, I witnessed exactly the same. They deliberately do not, when they come into power, they do not resolve it. They want those issues. What is it? Activate people, let them fight each other. Meanwhile, both of them serve the filthy rich and the Zionist cult. Now it is very clear the Zionist cult has invaded, has occupied the United States government, major institutions, financial, educational, corporation, media, and government institutions. And both parties serve the Zionist cult, and Israel is behind. And we know that the human rights and so-called and United Nations, they were all in writing and lip service, but as the president of Canada acknowledged, confessed, this was a fiction. We kind of pretend to believe it, but we never really followed. It was double standard. It was basically the hegemony, the dominance of the Western world, well, big corporation, and now it is Israel. Now it is clear. It became very clear to humanity. I saw this long time ago. Um, but right now, the young generation have seen that the Western governments are occupied. They don't represent people. The government is not government of people, by people, for people, but it is government of corporations, for corporations, by corporations. Well, in fact, more specifically, it is government of Zionists, by Zionists, and for Zionists. And Zionism is a global cult, a cancer, the most dangerous entity in the world. Um, Israel committed genocide in front of the world. And you remember lied about how many 40 babies and this many people killed. We later learned they killed their own people, all those cars burned and stuff. It was not by Hamas. We learned that they knew about it. We learned that they funded Hamas. In fact, they built Hamas to divide the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, with something more religious so that they depict the Palestinian struggle for humanity, for their human rights as fanatic religious people. It is a good propaganda for stupid Westerners. And we know all these things. They send money through Qatar, and they also gave directive to their military that not to uh, interfere for long time, for about a day or half a day. Hamas supposedly on killing spree. This was absolutely, they cannot be doing this without Israel's knowledge ahead of the time. It's impossible. They have so many informants there. They have so many electronic means of getting information about that. Impossible. Everyone knows now. Many Israelis accept it in their articles, and it is obvious. Therefore, it was a lot of false flag operations done by Israel. The list is long. And this is one of them. And then they basically created outrageous stories, lies about rape, about beheaded babies. In fact, all of them was projection, what they were doing and what they have done. They killed many babies, beheaded them, tortured. They, in fact, they praised the torturer and the rapist, their own rapist. And in fact, the person who a whistleblower, they imprisoned that person, and the rapist, they heralded publicly. Therefore, it is entirely a very evil population there. incredible, racist, no humanity, enemy of humanity. And while they are killing, they are bloody and ugly Goliath, but pretending to be poor and handsome David. And victimhood, unbelievable. And through their secret and overt organizations in the United States, since almost a century, they have been controlling, and starting from Federal Reserve, then killing the Kennedy and orchestrating 9/11. Yes, I can't believe that it was all their things. And also controlling all the media. They promote Zionism in the United States, and they purchased priest evangelical leaders who have who are the worst people on earth, like Sunni or Shiite clergymen. The clergymen are the worst in the world because they are the biggest liars. They lie about God, continual lies about God. They make up the dumbest, stupidest stories in the name of God. Well, such a person has no respect about truth because his business is sanctifying lies, holy lies. And therefore, they purchase them, bribe them easily, and also involve them in sex, pedomail them, and they grab a significant portion of Christian churches in the United States, and then politicians. And then we know they're working. One is through so-called donations to the politicians through IPAC and through media, distorting facts, misinformation and disinformation, all the mainstream media, and through Hollywood, again, another misinformation. Always United States is good, bombing all around the world. Dozens of countries, millions, tens of millions of people kill United States, but United States is the hero, is the champion of democracy, torturing people. Ha! And of course, bribing and through CIA and Mossad creating filthy rich billionaires, supporting them through government, like from Facebook to Google to Elon Musk. These are all part of the deep state. They got billions of dollars from government support. Some of them obvious, some of them are secret. It's right now, go study it. And therefore, these billionaires, they're not just out of thin air. They became billionaire with their own efforts. They are made by these uh, controllers. Those people want to control the world, destroy humanity. They think they are the chosen race. And now, and then we learn that they are also involved in human trafficking, um, young girls, children, and then serving them to the worst among us. And they are in top presidents, former presidents, billionaires, academics, top people in this country. Money, if they don't, they cannot buy them through money, bribery. They threaten them. If they cannot, then sex. Sex, threat, and bribery. This works for 99% of those people who are movers and shakers. Therefore, they have done incredible job to take over the Western world, a small population in the world, And it shows also this the divine destiny. Old Testament, New Testament, and the Quran, Final Testament, warns us about children of Israel. So many messengers, prophets sent to these people, but they betrayed their message each time. Even the Ten Commandments, they violate every statement in the Ten Commandments, including monotheism. They worship rabbis. Talmud has nothing to do with God, is made up by rabbis, is full of satanic teachings. Read Talmud. Incredible. Um, this group warned, is chosen by God. Children of Israel is chosen by God. And this group produces, throughout history, have produced the best and worst of humanity. The best and the worst of humanity, because they are chosen as an example. The best example we see, like Moses, best example. Jesus comes from them, one of the best examples. Einstein, one of the best examples. Or Finkelstein, here it is. Norman Finkelstein, one of the best examples of Jewish people, of children of Israel. By the way, Einstein, in 1948, he and 26 of his colleagues, they wrote public letter. It was published in New York Times in 1948, denouncing Zionists, denouncing the Zionist gangs, Irgun, Haganah, and Stern, and they started terrorist acts, massacring Palestinians. And Einstein and 26 Holocaust survivor colleagues, they rejected them. They called them terrorists. Exactly this word in their letter. Look for it, find it in archives. And then called them akin to fascist and Nazi party members. No, akin to Nazis and fascist party members in that order. I said, we have nothing to do with these people. They are evil. Guess what? The leader of these terrorist gangs, Zionist gangs, became the prime minister of the Israel. Find their names. Find out. I don't need to tell you. You should go search for it. And the ones that was denounced by Einstein and others. Einstein was initially Zionist. I would be Zionist too initially, to find a place for people who survived the Holocaust. By the way, I don't believe anymore the 6 million is over exaggeration. I don't believe anything they say anymore. They are full of lies. Continue there, just they cannot say one true, single true word. And we see the 6 million number, decades before, in all they're saying, well, always 6 million Jews killed, 6 million Jews. This is the same number, just they made it up. But of course, it is one of the major tragedies. Of course, more Christians, they were killed in Russia, and also during Holocaust. Many other people, communities, they were killed and slaughtered. You don't hear them because of the propaganda of this group, chosen group. But of course, um, you will never expect that these people, they would commit themselves genocide. They will use the same techniques, the same lies, the same propaganda tools as Nazis used. Incredible. The same. They are reincarnated Nazis, but this time against Palestinian people. Why Palestinian people is so pulling our attention? Because more than 70 years they have been subjected to ethnic cleansing, massacres, atrocities, kidnap, assassination. Incredible. They don't have their government. They don't have tanks. They don't have bombs, nuclear weapons, nothing. They don't. These are people. And and Israel, while has nuclear weapon, have one of the most deadly military, and has the support of the world's superman, and can steal money and steal technology and everything. Um, kills them, but Israel, we see it as the victim. And they killed about more than 700,000 Palestinians. The last number was 680, but since then they killed many more, mostly children, about half a million children they killed. They destroyed the whole Gaza. And despite the United Nations declaring it as genocide and arrest warrant against Netanyahu for committing war crimes, still, Netanyahu comes to the United States, to the Western world. He's hailed like the leader, the president of the country. In fact, more than the president. Both parties, the member of the both parties in the Congress, each time comes, they basically worship him. This shows that 100%, the young generation shows that these countries have been hijacked, occupied by the Zionists. And other countries too, France, United Kingdom, many countries, unfortunately, despite their people, they are the top are Zionist. Turkey too, Turkey. Tayyip Erdogan talks about Israel and Gaza, but when it comes to action, just the opposite, because they are also bribed or pedomailed. There are Epstein lists everywhere. In Turkey, it was that time led years ago by Adnan Oktar. He was using Harun Yahya, and this guy, many times um, because of his influence in Turkey, even during time Tayyip Erdogan, 4 times I was detained when I went to Turkey because of him. And he threatened me on his own TV. If you come here, I will do this and stuff. He was controlling the government at that time because he was the Epstein of Turkey. But later he was arrested because when they confiscated all the incriminating records they had about these politicians and movers and shakers, when they were able to go all their cells in Turkey and Europe, when they got all of them and they made sure that they cannot release any, and they basically arrested him and his close gang members. And he was very close to Israel. In fact, his lieutenants visited Israel, met Netanyahu. He claimed himself to be a Zionist. Initially, he was just the opposite. He was anti Semite, he was anti Zionist. But it was all a game. I knew him the first time I was the one in Turkey who exposed him that he's a charlatan, he's a liar, while the Muslim, so called Muslim groups, communities, and parties, they were praising him because of his work. He was stealing from Christian, um, translating Christian books against evolution, which is false. Evolution is God's system of creation, basically copying the evangelical Christians' false books. Of course, I am creationist. If you read my article about evolution, I don't think evolution is haphazard. Absolutely. Um, read an article, several articles on evolution on 19.org. One of them smelled cheese. Anyway, and then, and also he was writing against Masons and stuff, and later he declared himself to be the Mason. And but after him, I think there are others also. Therefore, a lot of Turkish leaders who wave flag or holy book, they are working for Israel. Imagine what also exposed this genocide, that the so-called world order, international law is a big lie. The Western world has nothing, do not care about human rights. All big lie. They are monsters and they are controlled by Zionists. This is 100% proven. And also the so-called Muslim world, either they are also controlled by Zionists, but acting up as if they are anti-Zionists in public, but in reality, Turkey during genocide continued their trade with Israel, continued transferring oil from Azerbaijan to Israel. Many of things is 100%. Even I was able to verify through the information on the Turkish government. In fact, Turkish government, the military, one segment of the military hired Israeli spy agency for security, internet security. Imagine that kind of intermingling. And one is Palestinian people, unfortunately, are not only the victim of the Western world, also victim of the so-called Muslim world. The Muslim world gave them all the time gas, we call it. You kind of provoke them. Yes, you are the heroes. Go ahead, fight and stuff. But in action, no support or very little that has no consequences. Yeah, Tayyip Erdogan for years was Palestinians. Hey, woo. But when they were killed, nothing. They didn't even join the case that started by South Africa against Israel for genocide. Imagine. They didn't even boycott Israel made um, goods. They didn't even lead. Bring kind of so-called Muslim countries come together, at least pick 10 consumer items, 10, not 50. If you do 50, 100, it means you don't really care. You don't want it to be successful, because when you have too many numbers to boycott, no one will remember them. It doesn't work that way. If you have hundreds of names of goods, oh, these are supporting Israel, let's boycott them. Either you are an idiot or you deliberately want it to be not successful. In order to be successful, you need to limit to the number that people could remember and focus on them. And second, not too big necessary items that people depend on, let's say, for their health. Something that there are alternatives that you can bite, not bigger than you can swallow. Just simple mind, common sense. They could have done this. They could have punished 10 companies, not necessarily the biggest companies, but 10 companies that support Israel, Israeli genocide. And they could, after that punishment, it will be the biggest message sent to pro-Israel, pro-genocide, pro-Zionist corporations, and the others, they would really think multiple times before supporting Israel. And they could follow up with a few more, and that's it. The rest, they would be scared. But they didn't do that. It shows that the so-called 2 billion Muslims, they are useless. They are useless, absolutely useless, or they are ruled by betrayers, by those who serve the Zionists. Okay, then what is the issue? First of all, Palantir and several other organizations right now working to create basically police state. The United States is right now, it's turned into a police state. You know, ICE is murdering American citizens on the street, no more warrants. Courts judge this decision. They can just enter people's homes or kidnap people, even children. They are enemies and they are also terrorists. They cover their faces because they don't have honor. They know what they are doing is crime. And right now, they're trying to terrorize American people. But I think it is a not easy fight. American population is very different than others, though for a long time can be duped through mass media and stuff. But when come to a certain point, it is a different population. This is a population that culturally very well aware about their freedoms, their rights, and also they have culture of owning guns. And therefore, I think it is going to backfire. Is going to backfire. We see the things. And new generation, those who are younger, teenagers, 20, 30, even 40 years old, they are majority of them, 70, more than 70%, last time I look at it, they are against Israel. They are pro-Palestine. They are against wars. American wars fought for Israel. If you listen to my last statement at European Parliament, I have two beautiful speeches. One is at European Parliament, the other in British Parliament. First one, I think about 35 minutes or 30 minutes in the British Parliament, 1.5 hour. I have only 1 hour of it, not question and answer session, somehow recording. But my last statement at European Parliament, please listen to it. It is about the list of American military invasions, covert and overt operations. Incredible, all over. The most aggressive and bloody government in the world. Therefore, I call it terrorist. The biggest terrorist organizations are governments. Biggest wars, two wars, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, Iraq, Syria, Yemen. Look at this. Millions of people killed in Philippines, in Korea, in Vietnam, many other countries, in South America, and they are by governments, and mostly Western governments. China hasn't uh, gone into war for about more than 40 years. China is depicted as evil and stuff. Goodness sake, they are there, they're helping their people, the government. Here, American people are starving, the biggest homeless population in the world, the biggest prisoner population in the world, and infrastructures are falling apart. The debt is skyrocketing. Where the interest going, even the interest of that annually is about $1 trillion going to just paying for the interest. Who's getting this money? From American taxpayers' money. And this money, while America is bankrupt and giving billions and tens of billions of dollars to Israel, and meanwhile, more than $1 trillion for military that is not defending the country, has nothing to do, it's all over the world. Invading countries, threatening countries, bombing countries. These are not friends of the American people. These are the enemy of American people, destroying United States, making profit from wars. Anyway, now what can we do? I don't think that it is possible to fight this monster, global monster, the Zionist monster, locally. I don't think locally is possible. Yes, China, Russia, will do something, at least for, but no, the Western sphere, Europe, Middle East, South America, North America, will not be saved from this devil, global devil, locally. Therefore, we need to be go global. Absolutely. If you see racism, nationalism, you know it, it serves them because no nation can, in the Western world, in their, they call it sphere of influence, will be able to defeat this monster. They will destroy that country. You turn your country, let's say, into heaven, unless the United States is changed. But in order to United States change, other countries need to unite. Let's say you turn your little country into a heaven. You created a free country, social justice, economic justice, eliminate billionaires, the greedy, filthy thieves, the biggest thieves, because they make money in a rigged economy. It's not free market. There's no such a free market. Market is designed by them. The laws, corporate laws, and tax laws, and so many laws designed by them, of course. The rules is helping them to make more money from your work. Uh, yeah, we can discuss this issue. Don't come to me, capitalism, freedom, and stuff versus communism. This is this is a fake, fallacious argument. It's not just black and white. There are so many shades in between, which is the truth is there, the justice is there. Um, you created heaven, they will destroy it. It's not possible. Therefore, the peacemakers of the world must unite. We need to transcend the national borders, which is right now in new century because of the internet, because of the transportation, because of the interconnectedness economically, because for just telephone to produce this one, you need minerals and certain elements that all around the world. You cannot just make it from just based on one country. Therefore, nationalism is dead. We are interdependent economically, technologically, in many ways. It's a small world. If there is a contagious disease in a country, within weeks, it will go to another country. If there is a crisis in a country, it will affect other people. Therefore, we have to go global. We have to transcend the borders, fake borders of color, fake borders of nationalism. It is for the oligarchs, it works. And then, but oligarchs, they don't care. They are transnational. They're already global. But they tell you to be local. And if you follow them, you will be an idiot, a racist idiot, a religious idiot in your local things. That's exactly what they want. While they are global, you are local, you are weak. They will destroy you, they will manipulate you. They will turn you into goy. Yes. Anyway, therefore, we need to transcend the racial, the national, and religious borders. Right now, internet allow us to this. Basically, we have these options. Right now, even the language border is eliminated in text. You can click it, you can translate it to your own language, to the languages you know. And soon, very soon, the technology is there. Any room you enter, if there is talk, conversation, like space at x.com, former Twitter, or in other social media, you can enter, you can listen in your own language, regardless of the language of speakers. Therefore, is already that also barrier is gone. Therefore, we need to find a way to create unity of peacemakers around the world. Peacemakers are the biggest majority in the world, though we are minority in almost every state. Very interesting paradox. Peacemakers are minority in almost every country. The racists, the religious bigots, or the hedonists, yes, they are biggest majority, and usually they define the government, they pick the government, or they are manipulated by the governments. But since they are not universal, they don't promote universal values, they are doomed to be local. An American racist will not be worldwide global majority. Even Canada, the racists in Canada will not agree with American racists. Or a particular faction of religion may be a majority in one country, but will not be a global power. But this 10 to 20% average in the world, all over the world, is the biggest majority because we unite on universal values. Therefore, our color, our religion, our nation is not the one that can divide us. Therefore, we need to find a way to create certain principles, no derogation, that clear principles. And through these principles, we find a way to cooperate, to implement some decisions. And it should be agent proof, subversion proof. That means it should not be based on one person, charisma, or some ambiguous ideas. It should be very clear. I'm talking about like cryptocurrency version of an organization. I'm not talking about making it hidden, secret. No, no, it should be as obvious as it is, as transparent as possible. But even Mossad enters, CIA enters, or KGB enters, whoever, whatever kind of, these are the biggest, worst institutions in the world. Their job is to make up lies and to kill people, to distort facts. The enemy of truth. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is know the truth so that truth will set you free. They are the enemy of truth because they don't want people to be free. They want to enslave people. Even they access this global peacemakers organization, they should not be able to do any harm. Let them come, no problem, because we have these principles. Therefore, I am incubating on this idea, and there's possibility I may become filthy rich through some divine providence help. I will use my money to do that. But my invitation to influencers who are peacemakers in United States, in Russia, in Israel, in Turkey, in Iran, in Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, Spain, China, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, correct, Mexico, Argentina, on all those places where government are evil, there are peacemakers in these countries. We need to these influencers find a way, come together. We'll do, God willing. That is the power. That time the Zionist cancer will find its basically immunity system. Our immune system will fight. Will be white cells fighting this cancer. This cancer is the most danger to the world, humanity, because they believe they are different. They are super. They believe that all other humans going need to serve them. They want to control. They do every trick, every lie, every deception, they commit every crime and atrocity to accomplish. One day I would like to talk why this chosen race, have become what it is. It is a paradox. In fact, right now, just briefly, throughout history, they are pruned through, they say, about 109 banishment or massacres they pass through. And each of them, mostly weak people, weak, they are killed. They don't have means to escape. They don't have means to fight, to protect. They don't have means to bribe. Therefore, usually they are the weak people. And the smartest one, or the one who have certain power and which requires some genetic um, um, not superiority, but well-being, and they are able to escape and whatever to a country. Usually they are better than average where they were. The average here is better the average than before. Therefore, each time the best, the most clever, the most deceptive ones, they won. They survived. Survived. Each time they proved. Like, may God forgive me, because I want to give an example, has nothing to do with the general Jewish people, because they are the best people, are also Jewish people. But imagine that, germs that use antibiotics, killing them further, antibiotics more powerful. And then it comes super germs that no antibiotic can kill them. Because each time the most resilient ones survive, and the most resilient one, and then at the end you get super one that you cannot even kill. The same way, the children of Israel, unfortunately, they pass through a lot of atrocities, and each time when they go someplace, they have now a very common experience, tragic common experience, which unite them, and which also motivates them to do the best in new country, not to be under, because they could be destroyed again, killed again, banished again. In their mind, they must be doing their best. Therefore, when they come in a new country, both they are the best of the best, they are the survivor ones, they're the strongest ones, usually with more educated families, and they start strive hard, very hard. They come as a victim, and they go up in professions like law, medicine, media, entertainment, finance, politics. These are major areas. They try to raise their kids for there, and they support each other because they have common experience, tragic common experience throughout history. It unites them. They support each other. Nepotism. And even do any trick possible, because for them it is survivor. And also they do a lot of money from gambling, from sex, from porno. They don't care about the issue. Wherever they get money for them, for their survivor, it is good. In fact, some I heard from their own mouth, they do it also to degenerate the population. If they become kind of into porno, into gambling, they will be weaker and therefore not as strong against them. They will not be as risk. This very paranoia is a paranoid personality, is a psychosis And then with this paranoia, they go up from victimhood. Soon they become powerful and arrogant and arrogant. Within a few generations, the psyche changes from being victim, now they are the power. They start censoring, they start greed, more money, more power, and they become more visible this time. Now the population, the majority of the population notices this minority got control in all the major institutions, and they are the richest people compared to their population. They are basically 10 times more visible in politics, in everything, sometimes 20 times more. And then they start pulling tension. And then here it is starts anti this group and anti-Semitism, unfortunately, instead of anti-Zionism or anti-evil among this group. Unfortunately, it is generalized. And then history repeats 110. This time, the majority of people says, here it is. We are not going anymore. Enough is enough. And right now, the United States is in going towards that point. Especially Epstein, it shows that I could never believe that oligarchs, the richest and the most powerful politicians and stuff, they will be engaging in pedophilia. And some records shows that they were even killing those children. Unbelievable, unbelievable, but this reality. Thousands of documents shows, and they were hiding, they were trying, but thank God Thomas Massey, and some other people, which I would never consider voting for them now. I am contributing to Thomas Massey's uh, campaign, and he's targeted by them. Marjorie Taylor, I hated her when I was used to be progressive Democrat, unfortunately. Now I am supporting them. Thomas Massey, was it last year or what, 1.5 years ago? I met him in his office for about an hour. We talked. I like the guy. Of course, I don't like some of his economic social ideas. I do believe that we need universal basic income. We need distribution of wealth. It is a criminal thing to have these many billionaires. In fact, a billionaire, we don't need it. Should not be. It's cancer in the society. But I like it because to me, litmus test is Zionism and Israel. We need another fight for independence from this parasite called bloody parasite Israel, which is destroying our country. They do work incredibly in both parties. They work one group of Zionists, they bring more um, immigrants here. They want to create diversity so that white people will be less, so that no danger. And the other group create racism against them. And by this way, they create fights between white people and colored people. And still, they come, both of them, they work even against each other, but this even serves their power and control. And yeah, right now we need to focus in the United States, another war of independence. This time, I hope that violence will not be used, guns will not be used. I don't think that we are not in that age anymore. I think we need to use truth and wake people up against this menace. The litmus test is Zionist. If you are a politician, if you are getting money from IPAC or similar to many groups, If you are going to serve Israel, if you are not denouncing Israel, if you are not denouncing genocide, if you are not denouncing wars, so many wars, if you are not against military industrial complex, then you are the enemy of American people. That's it. No votes for anyone who are not pro peace and against Israel. Israel is the enemy of humanity, absolutely number one enemy of humanity. But if Israel change, if people decide changing Israel, welcome. I have nothing against Jewish people or children of Israel just because they are children of Israel. But it is a mindset. There are many Jewish people who are following Torah, who are against Zionism. As I said, Einstein himself and many Jewish people now you see them, they are loud, they are Jewish Voice for Peace and many other Torah Jews. I know many of them. And therefore, for the sake of the Jewish people also, they need to um, fight Zionists. Zionism is not only enemy of Jewish people, is the enemy of all humanity. We need to unite because it is a global cancer. Thank you very much. We'll talk inshallah another time.